My room is such a mess, you can't see it, but my cute little cousin who was staying with us this week, kind of accidentally flooded our basement, and I live in the basement. So my carpet got all wet in some spots by my door and stuff. So all the stuff that was on that side of the room had to be moved over, and so all my Harry Potter stuff is like all over the ground, and it's kind of stressing me out, but I'm just gonna ignore it. It's fine. Hey guys, it's Tori, and today I'm going to be doing my TBR for both the NEWTs Readathon as well as the Classicsathon for August. So, if you don't know, G over on Book Roast has been, the past couple of years, hosting the Magical Readathon, which occurs for 2 months out of the year, and then she also has like a couple week-long shorter versions of the Magical Readathon. Basically, it's based on the Harry Potter books. How it works is in April she did the Owls, which, if you don't know, in the 5th year at Hogwarts in Harry Potter, the students take the ordinary wizarding level examinations, in which they basically are preparing for their future careers, seeing what classes they'll be able to take for the last couple years of school. And then in their 7th year of school, they take the NEWTs, Nastily Exhausting Wizard Tests, and that's what the Magical Readathon is in August. So it's a little more intense than the Owls. In the Owls, each subject has its own challenge, whereas in the NEWTs, each passing grade has its own challenge. Basically how it works is there's A, E, and O. If you need to get an O, which is the highest grade, you have to do all 3 challenges. If you just do E, you have to do the first 2 challenges. If you do A, you just have to do the challenge for A, if that makes sense. So it's a little trickier. This year she's been doing Wizarding Careers, which is so fun. It's just such a fun readathon. I love Harry Potter. Also, this month is going to be the Classicsathon, hosted by Lucy over at Lucy the Reader. And for this readathon, really the only challenge is to just read a classic in August. In her announcement video, she discusses how classics often take a little bit more time. You want to take more time with them so you can really delve into the characters, into the culture at the time, and why this book was significant. And so it takes a little longer, so the only challenge is simply to just read a classic, and it's totally based on your definition of a classic. So it can be anything you want, as long as you would consider it a classic. And so I will also be participating in that. Since it's so simple, I have a classic included in my NEWTs TBR. So yes, I will also link both of those announcement videos down below in case you're interested in either one. But without further ado, let's get started. First of all, I have my lovely letter from McGonagall. It says, "Dear student, we are incredibly pleased to see you have survived your Owls and would like to welcome you to the NEWTs session. Your wonderful achievements have gotten you this far, and we have full confidence in your ability to exceed at NEWTs as well. That being said, these exams are of utmost importance to your career and are not to be taken lightly. Please ensure you sit the correct exams in order to advance in your selected field. For assistance, please refer to the career guide distributed during Owls. To accommodate your revision, the Hogwarts Library will be open 24/7 for students preparing for their NEWTs. It would be wise to take advantage of this. Snacks will be provided, however, Miss Pence has asked to remind that students are not permitted to bring chocolate frogs into the library or they will be banned. The exams will take place during the month of August. Please find a list of exam requirements, circa 2019, detailed on the second parchment. Best of luck, Minerva McGonagall." I just love that she does those things. It's so cute. So, the career I originally had planned was healer. However, in order to do healer, I'd have to read 10 books for the NEWTs, and I am going to be moving back to school. I also have a trip planned towards the beginning of the month, so I want to challenge myself, but I feel like 10 books is a little much for me, especially considering I don't really like graphic novels, at least so far in my experience with them. So I don't really have the option, I have the option to read graphic novels, but I won't because I just don't prefer them. So I wanted to find one that I still had passed all the Owls subjects for, but was a little bit less required for the NEWTs. And the one I ended up choosing was the Librarian, which it explains on this that it's not like the librarians in the Muggle world. They basically are like curse breakers, but they like find ancient manuscripts, and it sounds awesome. So that's what I'm going to be looking into. And for the NEWTs, I have to get an O in Ancient Runes, an E in Defense Against the Dark Arts, and an E in History of Magic. So it's 7 books total, which is still a challenge, but I feel like a little more doable for me. And I'm really excited about the options I have. Real quick though, with full disclosure, however, I want to mention I am currently working on Les Misérables by Victor Hugo. Throughout July. I'm about halfway through it, which is pretty good. However, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to finish it by the end of July. I'm really going to try, but I don't want to force myself to get through it that fast because I still have like 600 pages left. So because of that, I'm going to, if I end up crossing over into August, to get an A in herbology, it's Mandrake read listen to an audiobook. And so I've been listening to this on audiobook, so I'll count this for an A in herbology. It's also a classic, so it will work for the Classicsathon as well. If in my July wrap up I don't mention this book beyond like I'm working on it, then you'll know that I'm using it for the readathon, both readathons. Okay, so Ancient Runes, to get an A, the challenge is Awaz. I probably didn't pronounce that right, but it's a rune that means partnership, and it says read recommended by a friend. For this one, I'm going to be reading My Name is Asher Lev by Chaim Potok. This was recommended to me by my dad. I don't really know a ton about this. All I know is that I'm pretty sure it follows a Jewish boy who's a really, really good artist, and he's kind of trying to learn to balance his art with his family. Beyond that, I don't know much about it. I know it's a pretty well-loved book. And my dad absolutely loves this book and has been wanting me to read it, plus it was on my summer goals list. So, it's the last one on my summer goals list that I haven't read or at least started. So, I'm excited about that. To get an E in Ancient Runes, I have to read a book written in the past tense, and for this one, I'm going to be reading The Tenant of Wildfell Hall by Brontë. This is my classic for the month that I'm definitely going to be reading. I'm so excited about this. This follows a town where there's this man who meets this mysterious woman and her child who just moved in to this old house. There's a lot of gossip surrounding her, rumors, and he becomes quick friends with her, so he defends her against all these gossip and stuff. But one day she gives him her journal, and in it he reads her backstory, and it ends up being very surprising for him. I actually have read the first couple chapters of this and already fell in love with it, so I'm super excited to finish it. Also, I'll finally have read something by Brontë since I've read something by each of her sisters already. It'll be nice to get around to her finally. And to get my O in Ancient Runes, I need to read a book that has been on your TBR for ages. And I ended up for this one choosing Dangerous by Shannon Hale. This is a science fiction that follows this girl who goes off to a NASA summer camp, and she discovers this conspiracy that's going on that could destroy the world, and nobody listens to her, so she kind of takes matters into her own hands and tries to save the world. Sounds kind of like a generic storyline, but my mom read it and she really liked it. I also know Shannon Hale is very good at adding her own little twist to things, and it just seems fun. It seems like a fairly quick read. That's science fiction, which none of the other books I'm reading for the month are science fiction, so it'll add another genre to my TBR, and yeah, I'm excited to pick it up. Okay, for Defense Against the Dark Arts, for an A, I have to read a book that's black under the dust jacket. And this is the only one that I bent the rule a little bit. And I ended up picking The Joy Luck Club by Amy Tan. I just really need to read this. I won it in a Goodreads giveaway a couple months ago, and I feel like I really want to get a review up for it since the publisher was kind enough to send it to me and do the giveaway in the first place. And so I really want to get to this. So it has a black spine. It's not a hardback, but it has a black spine. So as a paperback, it kind of follows the rule as much as a paperback can. So I'm just going with that. If that bothers you, sorry, but that's what I'm going to do. This follows, it's so shiny, I love it. Anyway, this follows, I want to say, a group of Chinese women who have emigrated to America and are raising their children here, and they kind of discuss with each other some of the struggles of maintaining tradition, maintaining the language with their children, just that connection between mother-daughter, especially in an immigrant situation. and I am really excited. It's also not very long, so it helps to add a shorter book to my TBR to make it a little more doable. So to get my E in Defense Against the Dark Arts, I have to read, well, it says Gilderoy's Memory Charm, first book that you remember just now from your TBR. So the first book that I thought of when I heard that challenge in her video was The Storied Life of A.J. Fikry by Gabrielle Zevin. I hope I pronounced that right. This follows a man named A.J. Fikry who owns this bookstore, and his life just isn't going the way he wants it. It's a little boring for him. Until one day he ends up getting a mysterious package and also losing his copy of Edgar Allan Poe's stories, which he's really sad about. These two events cause his life to spiral into a new direction. It sounds very whimsical. I know a lot of people love the story, and again, it's a shorter one, so it will help to break up some of the slightly larger books. Not that any of them are that big, but you know, it'll help to have a couple shorter books. Next, to get the A in History of Magic, I have to read a fantasy, and for this one I ended up going with A Torch Against the Night by Sabaa Tahir. This is the second book in the Ember and the Ashes series, which I read the first one several years ago. I still remember it very clearly, but I've lost a lot of my excitement about it, and so I really want to pick this up. I've tried a couple times. I read the first couple chapters, and for some reason I just haven't been able to get into it, but I feel like, sorry if you see a fly buzzing around, there's one in my room, and it's probably just has made several appearances in this video, I'm sure, but anyway, sorry about that. Anyway, I feel like if I listen to the audiobook for this, I will be a lot more invested in the story, and I can see if I want to continue on with the series after this, or if my tastes have changed enough that I'm not as interested anymore. But yeah, so I'll be listening to this primarily on audiobook. And the last book on my TBR is to get my E in History of Magic, is to read a book that includes a map. And for this one, I'm going with Girls Made of Snow and Glass by Melissa Bashardoust. That was probably not right at all. This is a Snow White retelling that has a lot of feminist elements, I've heard. My mom read it and enjoyed it. There were some things she had problems with, but I'm just interested to see how I feel. And it's been a really long time since I've read a fairy tale retelling, so it'll be fun, especially a Snow White one, which I feel like is almost one of the most done in some ways. Beauty and the Beast, Cinderella, and then Snow White are probably the top three that are done. But I'm excited to read it, and it's also not super long, so I feel like it'll be very doable to get through very quickly. That is it. That is my TBR for the month. Let me know down below if you're planning to participate in this readathon, as I would love to know, and if you have your own channel and you posted your TBR, let me know as well, because I would love to see that, and I will talk to you next week. Bye!